Good afternoon. We wanted to take a few minutes and just offer the opportunity for people who had thoughts, had concerns, had emotions, questions that you wanted to either broach to me or make sure that the leadership of the temple in one form or another addresses over the next few weeks. Contrary to Gary's introduction, I didn't intend this as a presentation. I wanted, again, some sharing moments. So I'm going to share a couple thoughts of my own, as well as some that I found from people whose opinions and concerns I respect. I want to make sure that you are able to hear them or see them. And then I'll sit back and I'll be the moderator just for 15, 20 minutes. If people have questions or things that they wish to say, no value judgments attached. Just we all went through, whether we were watching on television, whether we were somehow tuned in on computers, whether we were just listening, whether we were sharing fears or sharing statements of courage. The situation and the experience of Congregation of Beth Israel in Coleyville, Texas, certainly affected all of us. I mentioned on Friday night that, and some of you know this already, that everybody refers to him as Rabbi Charlie. Charlie was a camper of mine, a camper and a youth grouper of mine. I've known him pretty much all his life, and other members of his family. So there we have a personal connection. His home congregation is in East Lansing, Michigan, and the rabbi there, we've been joking all day today about small world connections. The rabbi there in East Lansing, Michigan, at Congregation Sharet Tzedek, which is Charlie Citron Walker's home congregation, the rabbi there now is also one of my former students, Rabbi Amy Bidman, and Charlie's mother was with Amy all day on that Saturday 10 days ago. Charlie's sister is married to a young man who grew up in my congregation in Michigan, and Charlie and I co-officiated her wedding together. So this is really family in a small sense, but also in the largest sense, because each and every one of us share the history, share the concerns, share the present, which sadly includes the threats that come to the Jewish community, and we share the future of how we're going to approach the future. Most everyone whose words and messages that I have seen, posted, printed, shared around on different websites, everyone is saying, thank God, obviously, that the hostages were all free, escaped, fought back, if you wish to say it that way, because they did fight back. They fought back with intelligence, with patience, with courage, and then the ability to arrange for their own escape. We were, for the most part, but not exclusively, and not universally, we were appreciative of statements that came from Christian and Muslim organizations around the country. In some areas more than others, but the statements of support certainly were there. I have a couple samples of them if you haven't seen any of them or hadn't heard any of them. But the introduction really that I wanted to give to you, no longer on a personal level, but the words of one of most widely respected and knowledgeable leaders of the Jewish community, Professor Deborah Lipstadt of Emory University in Atlanta. She's one of the foremost Holocaust educators in the world. And she wrote an essay, an op-ed in the New York Times. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'll share some of what I think are the highlights. She begins, of course, with the prayer that was on many of our lips, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. We praise you, God, sovereign of the universe, you free the captives. She wrote, late Saturday night, 10 days ago, as news came of the safe conclusion of the hostage-taking at Congregation Beth Israel in Coleyville, Texas, I, together with many other Jews around the world, recited that blessing. For many of us, tears flowed freely. We shared it, we posted it, and we felt it. Another tragedy had been averted, but the scars of the tragedy remain, and they will take a long time to heal. I thought, this is Dr. Lipstadt speaking, I thought of the Beth Israel rabbi's two daughters who waited all day to hear of their father's fate. One rabbi recently told me that some of her colleagues' children don't want to be congregational rabbis anymore, like their parents. It's too dangerous. They don't want to have to worry every time their parent goes to the office, for the parent's office is the synagogue. Jews have long thought of their synagogues as both a place to pray and a place to find community. That's why you may have seen, as Rabbi Charlie noted after his heroic escape from the gunman, that a synagogue is called a Beit Knesset, a house of gathering. A synagogue is a Beit Tefillah, a Beit Midrash, a house of prayer, a house of study, and a house of gathering. That's why when traveling abroad, even Jews who are not regular synagogue attendees often seek out the local synagogue. She wrote, we are shaken. We are not okay, but we will bounce back. We are resilient because we cannot afford not to be. That resiliency is part of the Jewish DNA. Without it, we would have disappeared centuries ago. We refuse to go away, but we're exhausted. Rabbi Citron Walker credited his survival to the active shooter training and security courses that he and his congregants took in order to prepare for just such a moment. He knew how to stay calm. He knew the right moment to fling a chair at his captor and dash for the exit with the other captives. The Jewish community offers such training on a regular basis to an array of Jewish institutions, especially to synagogues and schools. By the way, we are arranging for another opportunity for that to happen here. Dr. Lipstadt, it is not radical to say that going to services or whether to converse with God or with the neighbors you see only once a week, that should not be an act of courage. And yet this weekend, we were once again reminded that for Jews, it can be precisely that. Among those morning blessings that are part of our Birchot HaShachar, the blessings of dawn, is one that thanks God for opening up the eyes of the blind. Jewish eyes did not need to be reopened, but this week we wonder if the eyes of our non-Jewish friends and neighbors, particularly the ones who didn't call to see if we were okay, if their eyes haven't been opened just a bit. There's an additional blessing during those early prayers that thanks God for allowing us to stand up tall and straight. We are, especially in the light of Coleyville, we are standing tall, we are standing straight, but we are also checking for the exits. So with those thoughts and words, strong, powerful, and I think that they really reflect what many of us were thinking